For
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another recap. Once again, we were going to do another recap yesterday, but uh,
pretty much we were tired again.
we were exhausted. This is the most exhausting G-Fest I've ever been to, and again, it goes back to the other night when I only got 4 hours of sleep. I just didn't sleep very well. So basically, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what we did yesterday, kind of give our thoughts on it, with the panels and some of the events we attended, and show you a couple things we bought. Yesterday was a very, very slower day for us in terms of buying, but there were some things that we found and liked that we purchased. For me, for example, this was one of the things I purchased yesterday.
And that was one of the things I got too.
Yeah, so that was really neat. I've been wanting to find one of these.
Same
Finally
here.
found one. But just to kind of let everyone know today, we really aren't going to be doing much at G-Fest today anymore. I have, Jason's got a really long drive. I have to drive through the heart of Chicago, and so we're going to be leaving in like a few hours. So
Yeah, he'll be leaving at around 10:30.
yeah, so because I just need to try to get through that Chicago traffic if at all possible. There's a ball game here later on in the day, and so I would like to beat the traffic and just really get out of this part of Chicago here. Just because that was a headache driving through that the other day, which saddens me. I would like to stay for at least one panel today, but I'm not going to be able to. But so yesterday we started off our day at around 9 a.m. with Rago versus Battleship Yamato in the Filmstival room downstairs, and we ended up watching probably about close to an hour-ish
An hour's worth, yeah,
of it.
over an hour.
From what we saw, I enjoyed it. It was pretty funny and goofy, but that was the whole point and purpose. And if you know Shinpei, it's not Hayashida, it's Hayashiya. So they misprinted his name because if you look up Shinpei Hayashida, it's someone completely different. But if you put in Shinpei Hayashiya with a Y instead of a D, then you get a bunch of stuff on the director who directed these two movies that we'll be briefly talking about here. But we'll just kind of go through this in the order that we attended. So Regal versus Battleship Yamato, as I said, was really fun, kind of goofy. The effects were mainly in CG, but there were some practical effects there too. I thought he did a pretty decent blending in some shots with composites and the blending of practical effects with CG effects as well. But you could tell, he was still trying to find his footing. And I think he has a really good story there to tell, and he made a loose sequel of sorts, which we'll be very briefly talking about later. We didn't see all of this one, and we didn't even see all of Raigo versus Battleship Yamato either.
Yeah, we saw
But
the Rago one maybe a half hour or 45 minutes, and then that one like a half hour.
yeah, and there's a loose sequel called Deep Sea Kaiju Raiga. Now, for those of you who, like myself, go to Monster Island Toys once in a while and buy some of your DVDs from them, they have a bit of a confusing aspect to their movie Deep Sea Raiga on their website. On that website, it's talking about a 1942's vessel, Yamato. And of course, as you're probably saying, well, from what you're telling me, Kent, Raigo versus Battleship Yamato would involve a ship called Yamato. And you would be correct. However, Monster Island Toys has it screwed up, so I don't know if anyone's purchased that DVD called Deep Sea Monster Raiga on their site or not. But if you did, you may not have gotten the sequel of sorts. You may have actually gotten the first one. I'm not sure. I'm just letting everyone know out there in case you were interested in this movie, because they are two different movies. So in order that they were made, Rago versus Battleship Yamato was the first, and this loose sequel is Deep Sea Kaiju Raiga. And I'm planning on buying that DVD from Monster Island Toys because I think both of these movies look very interesting. And so I'm just kind of curious to begin with as far as which one it is. And I'm going to contact Monster Island Toys at some point too and ask them, look, your description isn't clear. Your title says one thing, but then the description is completely different. And here is the reason why. Raigo vs. Battleship Yamato involves a 1940s battleship fighting this monster, but the title you have for this movie is the title of the loose sequel to Raigo vs. Battleship Yamato. So enough of my little fanboy ranting.
I was going to say, get on with that!
But then we ended up going to see most of the Tomoko Eye. Before we completely leave Raigo, from what I saw, I kind of enjoyed it. I thought it would be a very fun movie to really do. I would like to do a little retrospective on it for our podcast. I think it would be worthwhile. Shinpei himself is hilarious. He's absolutely a stitch.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know I was going to be part of the talking for that. But, yeah, I enjoyed it too, and just kind of from what we have seen in there, especially with some of the familiar cast that we've seen from the Gamera trilogy and all that, and just kind of some of the stories behind kind of like the Raigo or the legendary Bonefish is kind of some of the names that they call, of course, the monster in that film and such. But I kind of thought at first with the Raigo vs. Battleship Yamato, I thought it would be something kind of like in the future or something of the sorts. I wasn't really expecting kind of a World War II
I wasn't either.
Type of film. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed from what I've seen on that.
Yeah. And so then we went and saw just about all of the Tomoko Eye panel, and that was very fun. That was very informative. We got a little bit of an inside look as far as how she got started into that project and her thoughts and opinions on some of the people she had worked with, whether they were actors or producers, and kind of how she had to act in her role in that movie. She was saying, for example, one of the most difficult things for her in that movie was to not show any emotion, because she says she loves to smile and she's so bubbly. She said it was hard for me to not smile in my role. And she was saying Akihiko Hirata, who plays her dad, Dr. Mifune, in the movie, was given the same direction by Honda as well. And so she was talking about how Hirata took her out to dinner one evening and was just kind of telling her, look, don't feel bad. They told me not to smile either. This is going to be difficult for me as well. And it was just really nice to kind of get, once again, this insider's look. And she was saying how she never talked to, she really couldn't talk to Tomoyuki Tanaka and this other actor who played Goro Maki in the film, because she was saying that in Japan, especially in the movie business, there's this hierarchical thing. And with her being a newbie at the time, you don't talk, if you're a newbie at this level, you don't talk to an actor like Goro Maki, who may be here, or Tomoyuki Tanaka, who's going to be way up here. You just don't do that. That's just part of the movie culture over there. So she never really got a chance to interact with as many people as I think most of us think, because here in Western culture, at least when it comes to movie making, yeah, you got the hierarchy, but you can still, a producer or director up here can still talk to an actor down here. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. So that was really fun. Do you have anything to add?
No, not much. I just kind of want to briefly go, since we don't have a whole lot of battery power on my work computer and such. But
Okay.
otherwise, it was a pretty good panel. And then right after that was the Katsuhiko Sasaki panel in the same room where the Tomoko Eye panel was. in there, and then of course there's Koichi Kawakita panels, parts 1 and 2, and
But you're going way too quickly here. We got to cover a little bit of them. The Katsuhiko Sasaki was really fun too. You got a little bit of an inside look. There were certain things about him that I didn't know, like he was in a band at one point, and then he's married 3 times. I didn't know that.
yeah, I didn't know.
And so he even admitted at one point, like 4 years after they filmed Terror Mechagodzilla, he looked back and he goes, I should have done something about that, because people like Akihiko Harada would jab at him a little bit, kind of like, look, Tomoko Mai over here, like, why don't you try to get involved? And at the time he's like, oh, no, and then 4 years later he was like, damn, I should have done something about that. So that was pretty fun. The Koichi Kawakita, I ended up missing a good chunk of that because I ended up going into the dealer's room.
Yeah, both of us.
But I got in on a little bit of it, and they basically talked about this one film. It was a World War II type of film where it was a bunch of fighter jets fighting American fighter jets.
I think they were kind of nicknamed Zeros or something.
Yeah,
they were.
Zero planes. In this particular panel, they weren't talking about Godzilla. I'm assuming the one right after that, the Kawakita 2 panel, they did, but unfortunately we didn't attend that. So we didn't get in on any Kawakita Godzilla action, unfortunately. But the one we did end up going to at 1 o'clock was G2014 at Toho Kaiju Iga. It was a panel where you had one of the panelists from the negative, what I call the negative G2014 panel. You also had Mike Bogue and Bob Eggleton on this panel, kind of discussing, once again, the movie as a whole, but the whole point of it was supposed to be talking about the kaiju themselves, and they did that a little bit too. But I think, again, they got involved in terms of talking about the movie as a whole, which I think maybe that's what they were supposed to do too, now that I'm looking at this schedule here and how it's named. They did end up kind of talking a little bit about how this particular movie compares with other Toho Kaiju Iga films, and kind of how the new Godzilla and the Mutos kind of compared with some of the other Japanese Toho type creatures as well, and how that with this particular universe already being built with Godzilla 2014, that there are certain monsters like Ghidorah that really, if you're going to put in the movie, really need a strong explanation as to why they're there in the movie as well. So it was a very fun panel. I was going to also go to the Atomic Age Connections, but I skipped out on that because I was getting really hungry at the time.
Yeah. I did eventually go to the Don Fry panel there. Then, of course, one thing that we forgot to mention, too, that we also have gone to the Artist Alley room there. He bought one...
I'll talk about that in a moment.
One thing over there, and of course we went to the art room on the lower level, just kind of looked around some of the few art pieces that were on display, and then we were in the video gaming room too. That was just maybe a couple rooms over from the art room there, but other than that, we eventually just kind of took a little break from that, and then came up to our room here, and then we decided to start heading downstairs to the Midway room for Deep Sea Monster Raiga.
Mm-hmm. We watched a very small bit of that. To me, that looked to have a lot better effects, and Shinpei was down there too, very briefly introducing the movie. I took some live video feed of that. From what I saw, no one watched it live, so maybe you could catch that on YouTube when we upload it. And then after that, we went and did Goohead Gamera Cinema. And about that time, too, they're combining Ballrooms 1 and 2 to do the costume parade. And we were expecting, like, either got Gamera versus Jiger or Gamera versus Zigra for this year's Goohead.
Yeah, because it seemed like that they usually do in order.
But the guy who was in charge of Goohead, he goes, I'm going to show Gamera the Brave because In the 3 years that I've been doing this, that's the one movie I haven't shown. I have a feeling, though, too, he hasn't shown Super Monster Gamera.
Yeah.
But when he said Gamera the Brave, I'm like... because that's my favorite Gamera movie. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful film. So we got to watch that. It seemed to fly by very quickly, because normally when I'm at home watching it seems like it takes a little bit longer to get through it, but not this time. And then we obviously did the raffles. We're getting closer. Every year we're getting closer to getting a free 2-night stay in the hotel.
Yeah, we were just 12 numbers off.
Yeah, so unfortunately. And then there was a costume parade. The costume parade this year was awesome. There were more contestants involved this year than there were last year.
Although we did see a few others that we've seen.
Yeah,
last year.
There were some that we have seen before, but no big deal. I don't have a problem with that. Jason might, but he always has issues.
You have issues too, so shut up.
But the costume parade was a lot of fun. You had a lot of new contestants, and you just had a lot of terrific costumes. I think we ended up recording all of that again this year.
Yep.
So again, we had some people watching that live, but again, you'll be able to catch all of that on YouTube if you missed it.
Yeah, some of the connection was kind of somewhat cut off, so there was probably some audio only, but then eventually the video came back in, and then it was pretty much good throughout to the very end there.
Mm-hmm. And then after that was a fan-made film by one of the guys at the Dojo Studios downstairs called Godzilla Battle Royale. It was a fun film, but there was just too much...
Yeah, the audio for all the explosions and
just
like punches and everything, it was just way too loud. And then also the monster battle scenes just kept on dragging so much.
Building. Here's the thing, like I told Jason, I said, look, it's a well-produced film. They put a lot of time in the costumes, the miniatures, the CGI effects, and all that. They did a wonderful job on all that. Hell, even the acting I thought was pretty good too for this fan-made film. But the problem was, and I understand it says Godzilla Battle Royale, meaning that you're going to have a bunch of monsters just boom, 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 boom. But there were a lot of things that he kept pulling out of left field to not only escalate the battle, which is fine up until a certain point, but story-wise, though, too, there were times in which, okay, well, earlier, for example, this alien queen was saying, unleash all the monsters. So they did. Well, then I went and took a bathroom break, and then I came back a few minutes later, and then here's this monster that wasn't unleashed. Like 10 minutes earlier, a Ghidorah-type monster. And I looked over to Jason, I said, I thought they unleashed all of them. They keep unleashing all these other monsters.
Well, apparently what I should have told you too, that Ghidorah was kind of the true form of that queen alien.
Oh, so you didn't tell me that. You did not tell me that at all. I apologize.
After her ship was destroyed.
Okay. But it got to be a little too much. The battles kept escalating to the point to where I actually thought it was never going to end, because they kept figuring out weird, strange ways of keeping certain monsters alive and upgrading other monsters and stuff like that. And like I told Jason, I'm like, look, I'm not trying to bash on this guy. I think he did a fabulous job in producing it, but he needed, in terms of the way he was going to structure the battle from a story standpoint, he needed to figure out a way to where it didn't drag on to the point. Like, Jason and I kid you not, like, we were sitting there, and I kind of leaned over at him. I'm like, look, I enjoyed this for, like, the first half hour, 45 minutes, but now it's getting a little too long. And it didn't allow you to catch your breath, and it was kind of hard visually in some spots. There were certain things that just were too much. And then even audio-wise, there were many moments where you had one track of music on top of another track of music, and then sometimes even in that, on top of these two tracks of music, you had all these different roars and sound effects blended in as well. So you had this. It was just tough to follow.
Yeah,
it was exhausting to watch at some points.
Like if you know or see kind of a volume meter and all that, it probably would be kind of in the red all the freaking
It was really
time.
loud. When I went to the restroom, I could hear it clear as day in the restroom. It was really loud. But like I said, I mean, it was a well-produced film. I couldn't do any of that stuff. I give kudos to the guy for doing a very ambitious project. I think he did a very good job on it, but I think story-wise there needed to be a little bit more of a coherent way to try to not exhaust
the audience.
The audience. I just felt exhausted after watching that. It just went on a little too long. And then audio-wise, I think he needed to kind of clean the tracks up a bit and not to have so much music and sound effects in some of his shots. But like I said, very well produced, very well choreographed and everything. I mean, it was fantastic. It's a great homage to not just Godzilla, but really to the genre as well. It was fantastic for the most part. It's just that story-wise, it was like you got an injection of caffeine on full blast and it didn't stop.
With a mixture of steroids.
It was too much after a little bit. That was my issue. And so that essentially concluded our day yesterday, and really for the most part our G-Fest this year. Like I said, we really aren't going to do much of anything today because I'll be leaving at a halfway decent time, but why don't we cover what we purchased yesterday? So go ahead, Jason.
It really wasn't a whole lot that I purchased yesterday. I think only a couple. Here's one sack, and then I already kind of mentioned earlier that I also bought this shirt here, and then the last one that I bought yesterday was if I can get this off here.
Way to just cuss.
I didn't cuss.
Yeah, you did. Get this thing off of here. That's what you said.
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I said freaking thing.
No, you did. I heard you.
No, I said freaking thing.
No, you didn't. Play back the audio when this is
No,
done.
I said freaking thing. And I got the NECA Legendary Godzilla figurine and stuff. So that's kind of pretty much essentially what I bought yesterday was this one and then this T-shirt here.
And so yeah, from me, let me grab my stuff here. So, like we were talking about earlier, we went to Artist Alley, and Jay Hoffman, as most of you know, is one of my personal favorite artists, and I knew he was going to have a booth there this year. And this particular print I'm about to show you, I had asked him about a month or two ago if he was going to have this print available, and he was saying, unfortunately not, he was going to have it as part of a coaster set with other kaiju that he had made. Well, then when we got there, I saw this print, and I asked him, I said, well, I talked to you, you said you were only going to have it as a coaster. He goes, well, people kept liking this picture on my DeviantArt page, and so that's why I ended up making a print of it. And here it is. It's the Godzilla 2014, kind of like his roar, and then Jay was very, very nice enough to sign it as well. So I was excited to see that, so I quickly snatched that up. And then I've been looking for a Heisei Godzilla figure for a few months, but never was able to really find one for a halfway decent price anywhere. Most of the people were charging absorbent amounts. It just was getting ridiculous, and so I ended up going to Radioactive Toys, and they had a Heisei Godzilla for $20, which was what I was hoping to pay at the most for it. And so here it is, a Bandai. I'm repurchasing this figure.
Yeah, he's starting to get his Bandai collection.
I'm not going to get all of it back. See, what I'm doing, um, as you remember from 2 years ago, I bought a G68 and a G Final Wars. And I tried to collect kind of different variations of Godzilla, so to speak. The problem is, like, some of the ones that say the Godzilla 67, the Son of Godzilla version, you can only get that in a memorial box. Even that figure by itself is expensive. So I know there are figures out there that I'll never have. But I do like the 68 one in terms of design. Also the Final Wars in design. And I do like this one. Because look, this is like the traditional standard look of Godzilla. So I wanted to add that to my collection as well. It will be up there on my work shelf with not only those two Godzillas, but even mine that I have of this, which, like I said, I think is possibly my most favorite Godzilla design. And so then I bought T-shirts too. The place where I bought those famous Monsters of Filmland T-shirts by Bob Eggleton, I bought these. And the strange thing was, because like I told Jason when we went in the dealer's room the other day, I said, no one's hardly selling G2014 T-shirts. And I said, this is just strange, because it baffles me, because it's a new movie. You would think all this stuff would be available, and that everyone would take advantage of wanting to sell this stuff at a place like G-Fest. And so then I just was walking through the dealer's room earlier in the afternoon. I wasn't expecting to buy anything. I was just kind of walking around, stretching my legs, and I went to the T-shirt place that I purchased most of my T-shirts, and they had them. When they sold out of some of the T-shirts, especially the famous Monsters of Filmland shirts, they replaced them with Godzilla 2014, and I'm over there and I'm like, like, I was freaking out. And part of me was like, why didn't you have this out earlier? I and many other people are looking for these things because we can't find them anywhere except for the internet. And on the internet in some places, some people are charging ridiculous amounts of money for some of this stuff. And so I was like, take my money. But I bought this one, the traditional logo, and then I ended up buying a couple more. I might as well just take these out of the bag so you get a better look at them. But I bought 2 more G2014 shirts, and I walked away a happy puppy because all of a sudden someone finally started carrying the G2014 shirts, and I'm just like, why did it take you so long to bring these out? But then here's another one. I thought that was pretty cool. And then also another one that I thought was pretty cool. I almost bought like 4 or 5 of these different shirts, but I held back and just bought the ones that I really wanted. This one too is kind of a nice little mixture of the current Godzilla with the old Godzilla. So I thought that was pretty cool too. So those were the things that I purchased yesterday. But yeah, I'm very pleased because G2014 stuff was really high on my list this year as far as certain things to get. I was looking for an individual Muto, like from the Pack of Destruction, the male Muto. No one carried that, unfortunately, this year.
It's only the Pack of Destruction from what I've seen.
And so after that, really what I wanted in terms of G2014 merchandise were T-shirts. So I finally got 3 of them that involved the movie. So I'm very happy about that.
So we've got under 20% left of battery power. So let's kind of somewhat wrap things up a little. So what's kind of your overall experience with this year's G-Fest?
My overall experience with G-Fest this year, once again, was still very positive. Although, kind of like we had talked about yesterday, there were 2 panels I was a little disappointed in. One I was really disappointed in. You can go watch that video because I'm not going to repeat myself here. But I was disappointed in a couple of panels yesterday. There were a lot of people this year. I was even talking to Jay Hoffman, who I purchased that photo from, and he was going, I've never seen lines like this to the dealer's room before. The dealer's room lines were going all the way around into the artist gallery where this one kind of sit-down dining area was located. And I told Jay, I said, yeah, I mean, this is our third year of being here. And I said, I don't remember it being this long last year, and I know it wasn't this long 2 years ago when we first arrived here. And so G-Fest has really grown, which is a very good thing. But like Jay and I were talking, and even Jason and I have mentioned this too on previous podcasts, I think G-Fest may be getting a little too big for Crown Plaza. Crown Plaza is a beautiful hotel, but I don't think it can handle the numbers anymore.
It may be around there from the way it's going, maybe another year or two.
Yeah, it's getting way too crowded. Like the dealer's room wasn't too bad. I mean, of course, you're going to be fighting crowds in some spots because a lot of people, especially the younger fans, want figures. So anywhere where there are figures, that's where you're going to see the largest group of people.
Yeah.
But for me, I get claustrophobic in large crowds. And at times, like I told Jason, I said, I'm getting claustrophobic here. Like, I need some air. I need to kind of get out of here for a moment. That happened to me more times this year than it did in all the previous 2 years combined. Like, I just kind of get cramped, and I start freaking out a little bit because I get a little claustrophobic in crowds. And like Jay and I, we were talking yesterday, if that porn convention across the street goes somewhere else or changes their dates, maybe what they need to do is have the convention back over at that Stevens Convention Center. But we got to kick those porners out of there first. Get them to go somewhere else or change their dates or something, because that's a larger place. You could still have people stay here, and maybe even have some panels here too, but have a lot of things across the street. Like your dealer's room, I think, should go over there for one thing. I mean, you can still have other panels. That's maybe what they maybe need to look into, is maybe have the dealer's room over there and have the panels here. I think then they will have plenty more space, because then they will have 2 extra ballrooms to work with. And then maybe that way, too, if you have the dealer's room across the street, you might be able to attract more vendors in the future as well. I don't know.
Yeah, more space for them, too.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's just a thought. JD isn't going to contact me for ideas anyways, so...
Okay, what should I do for next year? Or
why are you contacting me? But I enjoyed it. There was one really rude, forgive my language, but there was one really rude douchebag at the Tomoko Eye panel yesterday morning. His phone rings, right? He's sitting next to me, right where Jason is.
It's not me.
And his phone rings, he picks it up, and he starts taking this business phone call in the damn panel. And people, including myself, are looking over at him just like, shut up, like walk out and take your phone call outside, or just say, I'm somewhere, I can't talk to you, click. He talked that way for about 15-20 minutes during the panel, and it just was annoying. No, it wasn't the Tomoko Eye, it was the Katsuhiko Sasaki panel. And it was hard to concentrate, and I couldn't move anywhere because a lot of the seats were already taken in that room. So I wasn't going to move and give up a seat. But what a rude douchebag. It just... several people, including myself, were just so mad at this guy. Just how rude he was. And he was talking at a normal voice level, too, during this panel. It just... I wanted to punch him. If you got a phone call, take it outside, or just quickly tell someone, look, I can't talk to you, I'll call you later. You know, and really you shouldn't even be doing that. Your phone should either be on vibrate or off. And too many times during this G-Fest, too many people's phones were going off. It was annoying. And then there were some people during some panels that were interrupting as well. That kind of annoyed me a little bit too. So civility to some degree was kind of absent in this year's G-Fest, at least at some of the events we went to. Um, but nevertheless, I still had a very positive time, despite two disappointing panels, and despite some people being complete and utter jerks. But it was a very positive experience. I really felt like, compared to last year, I was able to enjoy myself more. And unfortunately, time still flew, which is a sad thing, but I felt like it didn't go by as quickly this year. But yeah, we'll do a G-Fest overview podcast here in the near future and talk about it in some more depth. But those are my general thoughts. So what are your general thoughts?
It was kind of the same as yours, but overall, I think we kind of pretty much made our target to not record live things as much this time around. So that was kind of the positive thing. So we kind of, in order for us to enjoy more of the event itself and kind of be more on vacation than just doing work stuff for our websites. But I know we took quite a bit of pictures, but probably not as much as we have done last year. But yeah, kind of like what you mentioned, kind of a couple of the bad panels. Yesterday, I almost told Kent during that one negative G2014 panel, is what he refers it to, that it's like there was one point where I was about to ready to tell Kent, it's like, well, just get out of here and leave.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it was just more bashing that
It was
film.
more about bashing the film. I don't care if you don't like it, but if you're on a panel, you need to try to find a middle ground. You just have to, otherwise your panel sucks.
Yeah, but other than that, I think we kind of went to a little more of some of the other rooms that we've hardly been to for the last couple of years since we started coming here, such as the midway room where they were showing all the independent films. So we finally kind of explored that area more, and then more into the video gaming room, which we've hardly been in that room.
Maybe one thing we could do is do sculpts this morning.
Yeah, it's like I know we did that last year too, around the same time, but there was hardly any sculptures then.
Well, that room was busy all day yesterday with people making sculptures. So.
Yeah. But we also finally made it to the art room this year, which I hardly went to last year.
Dojo Studios this year, we didn't get a chance to do a whole lot of videotaping and picture taping like we normally do, but that's because they were closed off a vast majority of the time.
Yeah, because they were doing some video shooting during those times, and what I kind of found out when you were kind of mentioning that we didn't take a whole lot of video and photos and such in the Tokusatsu room, I kind of noticed that we hardly did any kind of live kind of video tapings and such of the dealer's room itself.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, but I eventually have taken a few pictures in there. I think maybe late Friday night, or but I know I did some of them yesterday. So there'll be some dealer room photos in the collection of photos that we have taken. But
I'm not going to want to get into discussion of this right now. We'll talk about it later on the podcast. But if we come back to G-Fest, and I know we will, it's just a question of when. Like I told Jason last night when we were kind of concluding our day, I was saying, I do enjoy taking photos and videos, but I think we might dump the live stream in the future, maybe. It's not guaranteed, but part of the reason why we're thinking about doing that is, number one, at least for me, when I take video on my iPod, as I mentioned a couple times yesterday, the Wi-Fi in certain parts of the hotel is really bad, and so therefore it just doesn't work. or work all that well to the point to where the video quality probably isn't even that good to begin with. But on top of that, too, sadly, we haven't had a whole lot of people watch our events live when we do them. We actually get way more views after we videotape them and then upload them to YouTube. We get more views there, and I just think it probably works out better for us that in the future when we go to future G-Fests to just take regular video and photos and then just upload them to YouTube and Flickr and just do it that way. It saves some time for us. It saves a couple steps for us in terms of getting ready for G-Fest and preparing the site as well. We will still cover it, but like I said, this isn't set in stone, but it's looking like we more than likely will do this in the future.
Yeah, it's probably higher than 50% chance.
But if we cover it, we're not going to do it live anymore. But we may, like, let's say we come in on a Friday, we take pictures and video, we'll maybe upload the video and the photos that same evening. So it's not live, but you still are able to see some of the videos and photos we took that same day. It just will be at the end of the day when we get ready to close out our day. So we just think it's going to save us time in terms of preparing things. It's just, and unfortunately, we just think to a lot of people's schedules with Friday. Of course, a lot of people are working Fridays. And then Saturdays too, most other people, if you're not at G-Fest, you more than likely have other things going on as well. So we just kind of figured other people have things going on. It's not really worth for us to do it live anymore because not a whole lot of people watch them live. Altogether, we probably have had 10 to 12 people watch us live over the 2 years we've done this. But I'm thinking maybe in the future we will scrap the live thing.
Yeah. Kind of on
Except for this. We'll still do this, but in terms of taking like live video of the panels and stuff, we'll just maybe take video and then upload it later on. And you'll just see it from our YouTube channel.
Kind of on the around the area of coming to G-Fest, what are your thoughts of possibly coming back for next year?
Well, I know last year I said I probably wasn't going to come this year because I knew I was going to be moving this time. But then here we are, and I'm very happy about that too. I'm not disappointed. I just felt very, very confident that I wasn't going to be here this year, but I'm here and I'm happy about that. Again, for the second straight year, I'm going to say I feel strong in saying that I may not be here again next year, mainly because by this time next year, my wife's and my first child will be here. The child will be at about this point, be about 7 months old at about this point next year. And on top of that, we're going to do some work on our house. We have to replace our chimney because it's rotting. That shouldn't take too much money, but it's still going to take a decent chunk. But like I was telling Jason, I'm going to try to make a decision by either December or January at the very latest. And I'm going to talk to my wife about it too, kind of get her thoughts on it. Because even during the summer, she's still working. She's a professor, so she's still going to the office about 5 days a week and working. And so if we have a kid, granted she's wanting a computer to work from home more, so maybe, she would be okay with working from home and staying home with the baby for about 4 days while I'm here. She's very cool like that. Well, she is. She went and saw Godzilla 2014 with me, and that was her idea, not mine. We got to talk about the big thing at the costume parade, too, here in a moment.
Well, we kind of need to wrap things up because my battery here is down close to 10%.
Well, then we got to talk about it on the podcast. We got to make a mental note. But there are going to be some things we're going to do with the house, too. That, I think, is going to be the biggest factor. How much money are we looking to spend on fixing certain parts of the house next year? So to me, that's a bigger factor rather than whether or not my wife will be able to stay home for a few days with the kid. So I think it's going to boil down to that. I'm going to talk to my wife a little bit more, too, in the coming months and just kind of pick her brain, see what she thinks. I'm sure she will be okay with it, but there is the possibility too where she might say, "Well, I would prefer you to stay home," which is fine. Um, but we'll just kind of have to see. I'm not saying 100% I'm not going to be here next year, but I feel 80% confident in that. Maybe I won't be here, but no guarantee.
As far
I would
as
like to be here next year.
as far as me coming, I know I've kind of mentioned that I was planning on not coming for next year and go see our sister down in Florida and the like. But after doing some thinking and stuff after a while, I think I've come down to I probably will definitely come back next year.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why for that is that as of right now, I only have 2 weeks of vacation time available, and if I wanted to drive down to Florida and such, I won't have a whole lot of time, and plus I won't have time to come home to the parents for around Thanksgiving time, which I usually take that time off. So I probably will at least wait for a few more years until maybe, like, if I'm at my work, stay at my work for 5 years, then I would get a little bit more vacation time added on, and the like. So I would have at least more time to drive down to Florida and see our sister down there, and then have more time for more vacation time for other things. So I think I'll probably be definitely coming back for at least a few more years until I get more vacation time to go down to Florida to see the sister. So I plan on to at least definitely come back again next year.
Yeah, I want to come back, but like I said, for me, unlike this year, there are more question marks going into next year.
Yeah.
Like I said, the baby situation, I don't think my wife would have any problems covering that for just a few days. Because she's going to want to work from home every once in a while anyway here coming up. Because she already bought a new laptop. And but the thing is, like I mentioned, we got to replace our chimney definitely by next year. And we're looking to maybe replace perhaps some siding, maybe remodel the kitchen in the next year or two as well. There are just some decent projects we're looking at doing. And so it's more of a money situation, even though my wife being a professor, not to really rub it in or anything like that, but she makes an awful lot of money. But, like I said too, there are expenses with a baby too, so
Yeah.
they aren't cheap.
Oh no. No way.
But it's not more of a time thing, it's more of a money thing. Is it coming at the right time to where we can afford for me to, take anywhere between $800 to $1,000 and come here for a weekend and do it? Which, the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking I still will be able to do it. But as of right now, it's still an unknown. But I feel 80% confident in saying that I won't. But I really won't know until as this year goes on. Get a better look at what we're going to do next year, and then talk to my wife as well, kind of get her thoughts on it as well, and then go from there. She's usually very cool about me wanting to do things. She goes, if you want to go, then go. So I don't see really a whole lot of issues perhaps in coming next year, except for maybe money, but even then I still feel confident that I might be able to come next year, but we'll see.
Cool. So, if Kent doesn't come by next year and such, I'll, of course, take some pictures and then video, but we won't be doing a live video if we come around to that point. But if it's just me, I may not do anything live via Ustream and such, just kind of do the standard video from either my digital camera that I've been using, or I've been thinking about purchasing another camera, just like a video camcorder, but there's probably a good chance if I'm just by myself next year that I might not do a Ustream live feed. So other than that, that's kind of pretty much what we needed to cover.
Yeah, we hope For those of you that did watch our live feed, that you enjoyed our coverage of G-Fest, we really had a good time this year, despite a few issues here and there. But for the most part, though, it was very positive. And if I can't come next year, I hope to come the year after that. Like, I want to keep coming to these things. I have a blast with them, and I hope to keep coming.
Yeah, and like I mentioned on our Facebook earlier this morning, if you haven't seen it, that we should be able to upload all the photos and such when we get back from Chicago to our homes, or for me to our parents' house and the like. So you should be seeing some of those photos later on today. And I'm trying to kind of work some issues with Flickr, especially like on my personal laptop. I always kept wanting to view a photo instead of trying to drag and drop photos into the little designated area on Flickr, which I don't know why that's the case for me on my personal computer, but you kind of get the point.
Yeah, and I'll try to get my photos uploaded within the next 24 hours. There's no guarantee I'll do it tonight. I might try, but we'll see. I'll try to get them up in the next 24 hours. And Gabe, your items, I'm going to try to get that mailed off here this week. I got to go on another trip later in the week. I think I'm leaving Friday morning for another trip for about a week. So I'm going to try to definitely get your stuff mailed off at some point this week.
Yeah, as soon as that G-Fest t-shirt of ours gets to his place.
I'm sure it's already there. I'm sure it already is. But with that, sayonara.
We'll see you guys later, probably the next time the podcast. So, take care, guys.
You won't see us, you'll hear us.
Yes.